Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we are doing the top 10 Marvel Legends comic-based Spider-Man figures of all time. I know when I did my Spider-Man comparative review the other day, I said I probably wasn't going to do a video like this, but some people asked for it, and with YouTube coming to an end soon, I figured we should get this kind of content out as fast as possible because it is generally the most successful content on the interwebs, for me anyway. You guys like these top 10 lists, and I think they're kind of helpful and fun for everybody because you guys get to weigh in with your opinions. Speaking of, in the comment section below, let me know which Spider-Man figure you think is the best, and if you want to go as far as to make a whole top 10 list, lay it on me. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. And then of course we'll see how yours line up with my top 10 list. Some of these you'll see are not necessarily in the top 10 list because there are more than 10 figures here, if you can count. But we're going to get into that. First, I want to take a quick moment just to talk about the sponsor for today's video, which again is me. I'm going to be doing the second chance sale for my beast heads very soon. Like very soon. Again, he looks kind of washed out right now, I know, because the lighting is not set up for something this close to the camera, but it will be in the next week probably, because I just finished the last batch of orders, and so those are going to be shipping out, and the second chance sale will be happening. I still will have to make some of the ones that will be up for sale, but it will be a finite quantity, so you're going to need to pay attention. Keep an eye out for that video. You're going to want to get in on it early if you want to get one of these heads. There's not a ton of them, and there are a ton of people who want them, so make sure you pay attention to my YouTube videos for that. Once that is done, we're going to be doing the same thing for Mr. Gambit here. And so there will be a red-orange hair combo, this one right here, and then there will also be a brown hair option. You can buy both. I would recommend it, but you can buy either one or both or whatever combination you like. There's only really two options. Or you could buy one of each and then both. So there's a third option. I would recommend that one. But yeah, we have a new, mostly cartoon-based Gambit head. I just wanted to make one that was a lot better than the stock one, and this to me makes the whole figure come to life. So hopefully you guys are interested in that. That will be also very soon because I want to get those videos in before YouTube implodes. So now moving on to the top 10 list for the Spider-Man figures. Mostly this list is going to be based on a blend of quality and preference because there are so many, as you saw in the last video. There are tons of them, and a lot of them use a lot of the same parts. You know, there's a little bit of fudging to happen here in this list. So again, there's lots of subjectivity, lots of things could be interchanged, but this is the list in my preference, in my order, and hopefully that's helpful for you if you are looking to buy some Spider-Man figures. If not, well then just enjoy the show. So let's go ahead and get into it with a couple of honorable mentions. I want to start this list off with these honorable mentions, and the reason I'm putting them as honorable mentions is because I think for sure, without a doubt, 100%, you should have these figures in your collection. However, since they aren't any of the really traditional looking Spider-Man suits, I didn't want to include them because it's not really fair. I want to compare apples to apples as opposed to comparing apples to apple pie, because these are Spider-Man, but they have a little extra spice. That was I planned that. I didn't plan it actually, and I wish I had because it didn't come out as good as I had hoped. But either way, you get the idea. These are awesome figures, great character designs, and they're definitely for sure something you should have. So I really could have done like a top 13, but top 10 is what gets the views, and so I'm gonna go with this. Add these. You have this is the vintage version of the Scarlet Spider suit. He's got the metallic purple or metallic red, the no black on the eyes, but there's a regular version too if you want that. Check my other video, the 2099 and then the other 2099, both really well executed figures, very standoutish type designs, and definitely something you should have in your collection, but they're not any of the traditional suits, so we're going to set them aside as honorable mentions and move on from there. Coming in at number 10, kind of for the same reasons as the honorable mentions, we're going to look at the black suit Spider-Man. Now, this guy is a relatively traditional look for Spider-Man. I know that it's not like classic Spider-Man, but it is an important and, like I said, mostly classic or traditional look, and so it has to be included. The other issue with this guy is he's really the only game in town. There's the one Red Hulk wave that's really bad, and then there's the one that's really old and just doesn't match contemporary figures. So this is really the only one to go with. However, it is still a really solid figure, and I would absolutely recommend it even if there were other ones that weren't better. Think about that for a second. And so it's got to be on the list. It has to, but it is number 10 because I don't really want it competing with the other suits. And you're gonna notice a trend in that regard. But hey, it's what we got to do. I can't not include something as classic and important as traditional. I've used those words way too many times as the Black Suit Spider-Man. Plus, who doesn't like Black Suit Spider-Man? If you don't like Black Suit Spider-Man, go ahead and let us know in the comment section below, and then we can all make fun of you. No, I'm just kidding. We won't, but we might. So go ahead and do that. Coming in at number 9, we have one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man looks, which is the Ben Reilly Spider-Man, which also, for the record, does come with the Spider Carnage parts if you want a 2-in-1 type of figure. This one's it, so that's a nice bonus for it. Again, it's farther down on the list simply because it is the Ben Reilly spider suit, though I absolutely love it, and they really nailed it for this figure. Of course, there's something not perfect with all of these. We're talking about $20 Marvel Legends, and you can check out my individual reviews for them if you like in my Spider-Man playlist, but this one is one of the best they've done. They really did a good job overall with the aesthetic, and it looks great on a shelf. It's going to stand out very nicely, and like I said, the bonus accessories make it a nice bonus. So I definitely like this. I think, unless you absolutely hate the Ben Reilly Spider-Man, this is one you should pick up. It looks great posed, it looks great neutral, and it has a really nice finish. All around, solid figure. So go ahead and check this one out for number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have the Superior Spider-Man figure, which is the only real Marvel Legends figure of Superior Spider-Man, so it doesn't have much competition directly, and so that's why it's lower on the list again. I don't really want to compare it to the classic look, but it is a look that it got some traction, and I think a lot of people like it, and the figure it's pretty solid. It has a mostly unique sculpt, at least with regard to other Spider-Man figures, so that's a nice bonus. It poses really well, and that's really the sticking point for this one. The finish is nice enough. They did a good job with the messy web lines, so it's kind of hard to see any issues with it, but it just poses really, really nicely, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this one, even though it's a little bit more basic, mostly just solid black with a little bit of mismatched red. Not perfect, but it does pose very nicely, and it's a pretty good representation of the character. It's missing a few accessories it probably should have had, but it's still pretty solid, so that's why I put it on the list. Coming in at number 7, we have the PS4 SpiderMan video game Advanced Suit Spider-Man figure. This one was a little tricky to come by in the beginning. I think they've kind of balanced out now. I think people can grab them relatively easily, whether at GameStop or on eBay or wherever else. I think that's probably your only options. Anyway, this figure is one of my personal favorites only because I really love the white accents on it, and it would go farther forward for 2 reasons. One, you've probably guessed. It's not a classic Spider-Man suit, though it's really close, and I'd like to put it farther forward regardless of that issue, but the reason I can't is the reused head from Spider UK. That just bums me out so much. Should have had a unique head, and it doesn't quite match the other red on the body, but it is still one of the best looking Spider-Man figures they've made, unless for some reason you hate the suit. They did a really good job recreating it, and the figure poses well enough, and it's an all-around really, really solid figure. One of the best, if it wasn't for that head issue and the fact that it's just from the PS4 game. Some people won't like it because of that. They'll be like, well, I don't have the game, so I don't care. And that's a valid argument, and that's why it's lower on the list. But if you just like the design, then go get you one, because you're going to enjoy this figure. Coming in at number 6, we have the Spider-Man from the 2-pack with the lighter blue and the nice bright red with the glowy chest, which isn't very accurate but still kind of glowy, and the glowy eyes. And I said that because I don't know what this is called. I looked it up. Does this suit have a specific name, or was it just the new look they made for him? I think it was part of the Unlimited, was it Unlimited? I don't even remember, okay, I forget. But either way, this figure is actually one of my favorites. I don't know why he's got very angular webbing, I don't know why he's glowy, but the combination of the angular webbing and the light blue and the different pattern for the red and the very saturated red, it just looks gorgeous. I love it. Maybe it's just because I'm a sucker for the light blue, but this is a great mix of like a really new contemporary look and a very classic look with that brighter blue. As you can see in the background, most of these Spider-Man figures are navy blue. This one's not. This one's gorgeous, almost like a royal blue. You guys know what Spider-Man looks like, and you're looking at it right now. I don't have to describe it, but it's a really, really good figure. It's got some nice accessories, and it poses up nicely. I mean, as much as this mold can pose up, and they really nailed the webbing. And the glow, yeah, it's not perfectly accurate, but it does stand out. It looks all right. If you're not against the glowing, then this is one you should definitely track down. One of my personal favorites, but since it's not a classic suit, I didn't put it farther up. I'm gonna say that every time because until we get to the top, it's gonna be true, or at least close to the top. We'll see. In at number 5, we have Teenage Spider-Man. We have very few of these, surprisingly. We have 2 versions of this one. We have one Miles Morales, and is that it? I think that's it. They all use the same mold, so you could really pick any one, whichever one you prefer. Check out my collection or comparative review if you want to see the different versions, but this one's my personal favorite of the classics, not Miles because it's not classic, but this one has the brighter blue. I believe this one came in the 2-pack with Vulture. I'm gonna have to check on that. I'll correct that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what this one is. And it's really well done. It doesn't have the most posability. We lose a little bit of articulation in the shoulder area, but it has really great proportions. Very well done. And the paint job's pretty clean on it. Yes, it's supposed to be shorter than normal. It's Teenage Spider-Man. However, since Marvel Legends are upscaled a little bit, this guy is actually not upscaled a little bit, so he's a little bit too small, but I don't think anybody's really gonna mind that too much. And if you're looking for a teenage Peter Parker Spider-Man figure, this is definitely the one to get. You don't have many options, but it happens to also be a really solid release. I think probably the thing that sells me on this one the most, and maybe you guys will agree, but maybe haven't thought about it before, I find this a lot with people, is the proportions. Most people don't pay that much attention to the actual proportions, but when they see one that has good proportions, they like it more for some reason that they can't identify. I think that's the case with this one. I like it a lot, and I think most of you probably will too. Coming in at number 4, we have the Spider-Man from the Urban Legends Multipack, which was a really old pack, Toy Biz Marvel Legends. I know what you're thinking, it looks dated as hell. And you're right, it does look dated, and that's one of the reasons I like it. I think a lot of people, especially the guys that are a little bit older like me, which is actually like 90% of my audience, they're gonna appreciate this figure. Is it the best figure ever? No. Was it great for its time? Absolutely. And does it hold up well? I think the answer is enough. There are definitely some issues. It definitely gets loose over time, but if you can score one that's in good condition, this is a great representation of just a really traditional classic Spider-Man. It also harkens back to the figures we collected as kids, where it was just all flat plastic, none of those sculpted web lines, which I'm still not a huge fan of. And it has the more kind of stylized eyes, which are relatively based on the cartoon, or at least they're based on the same source material. Kind of a brighter dark blue. It's a very specific look for Spider-Man, and while it's not the absolute best figure, it is a very particular figure, and I think you would be hard-pressed to not appreciate it if you add this to your collection. And since it's such a perfect example of a classic Spider-Man, it had to make the list. Without a doubt, I never had any doubt about it, but it doesn't go any higher because of the loose joint issues and some of the like paint chipping and things like that, but that's kind of something you just have to live with for an older figure, and that's the way it goes. So that's why he's on the list. You can let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Coming in at number 3, we have the Sinister Six Spiderman. Now this also could be the Fearsome Foe set. I always get those confused. I'm almost positive though it's Sinister Six, and it does have its issues. I know you guys are gonna have complaints about these last few. I know it. Voice them in the comment section below. This is my list, and I'll do it the way I know. I just happen to like a lot of things about these figures. I acknowledge the flaws, but there are also some really good things to talk about. For example, you're looking at his back right now. That spider is sculpted on. You can see he's got texture throughout the suit, which may or may not be accurate, but it still looks really cool. It's a very stylized figure, without a doubt. It has some loose joint issues, without a doubt, but it's gonna be one of the most eye-catching figures on your shelf. If you pose him up a little bit, it's gonna look great. That heavy black wash on there really makes him pop. Again, the sculpted spider logos are great. It's got really nice head sculpt, and he's got some really fantastic double butterfly articulation. It'll flare out to the side and up and down, and it has standard articulation on top of that. So I acknowledge these figures have flaws, but they are also some of the most unique figures, and that's why they're making it toward the top. Again, if you want to complain about it, or if you want to agree about it, or if you want to just have an alternative, put it in the comment section below. I understand a lot of these are very subjective, but there are some objective qualities that make these figures worthy of the top 10 list. This guy, completely unique sculpt other than like maybe one other Spider-Man figure, but even that was slightly different. So it's a very fun figure to own. If you can get one that's not loose and floppy, you will be made That's not a saying. You will be happy. That's a saying. And if you get one that's loose, it's still pretty cool, but you're gonna have to deal with it. But yes, it has a lot of flaws, but it also has a lot of great things, and especially for its time, it was and is still in some ways an absolutely excellent example of a Spider-Man Marvel Legends figure. We don't see figures like this anymore. Coming in at number 2, we have the Raft SDCC exclusive box set Spider-Man, which does feature basically just this Pizza Spider-Man body parts, which I know people don't care for, but other people love. And either way, no matter how you feel about them, it's still a solid release, and it has the bigger eyes, which a lot of people really like. Yeah, it's missing alternate hands, and it has the really dark blue look. It's a very particular look for him, but it's still a really good example. And I think even though it has those flaws, and I'm by no means a huge fan of the Pizza Spider-Man body, it still is a really good representation of Spider-Man. If you're looking for one that's just kind of a classic, but a little bit stylized, like a little bit of extra chutzpah, then this is one that's good for you. Obviously, you can go with any of the Pizza Spider-Man figures. There's like 1,000 of them now, and they'll be fine for just your casual collector. And this is a good one, but it has that extra little what's the word? Pizzazz. It's got some pizzazz, but the bigger eyes and the darker blue, and I really like it. I don't like the body it's on, and I definitely would change a lot, but it's a very nice, well-rounded figure. Yes, the Sinister Six one is a really nice figure in some ways, but it does have a lot of flaws, whereas this one could definitely just be better. I wouldn't say they're necessarily flaws. So it's a really solid release, a lot more basic, but that's playing in its favor in this regard, so that's why it's at the top of the list, almost. Coming in at number 1, you all guessed it, Spider-Ham. No, of course I'm only kidding, it's a piece of garbage. Boom roasted, got him. Of course we're talking about the McFarlane SpiderMan. I know, it's a contentious topic nowadays. A lot of people say this figure is no longer the number 1 spot. It's not the best. Well, I'm here to tell you, it could be. If you share the same ideas that I share, then you might think it is. If you don't, then you probably won't. Again, this is very subjective, and I'll go ahead and break it down. It does have flaws. It does get loose over time. Most figures do, especially the ones that are highly articulated. This one is highly articulated, and that's one of the main reasons it's on the list. You can pose the crap out of this guy, and it's only a Marvel Legends figure. It rivals some imports. It has great range. Its butterfly joints are probably second to none when it comes to domestic figures. It's exceptionally well done in many ways. Some people claim it's too skinny, and maybe they're right, but it does match a certain art style. It's not really the McFarlane SpiderMan, but that's what people call it. It does have the eyes that people recognize, mostly because of McFarlane's artwork, and it's got the darker grayish blue. We've got the sculpted logos again, a lot of black wash. It's a very particular looking figure, and I totally understand people not preferring it, and that's why I gave you the one at number 2, but the one I think still is the one to have if you're a Spider-Man collector is this, the air-quoted McFarlane SpiderMan. It does suit the Marvel vs. Capcom look, which I know a lot of people really like, and it suits, like I said, a very gritty-looking Spider-Man. If you like that, this is the one to get. But there's also a bunch of other ones you can get, and I just made a whole video about it. So you can rewind it and then decide if you like any of those better. But I also made a whole other video with even more options. I'm giving you guys lots of options here. So if you don't like this one, you can argue about it with me in the comment section below, but it's mostly my personal preference. And like I said, there is some objective quality to this figure. The articulation is great. Look how seamless a lot of it is. The ab crunch is very well hidden, the butterfly joints, everything is just, it was made with a lot of care and a lot of heart, and that's one of the reasons I really like this figure. A lot of these figures nowadays look like they're cookie cutters, which they kind of are, in a very action figure-y sense. So that's it. That's our number 1 spot. Alrighty guys, that was our top 10 Marvel Legends Spider-Man list, and maybe one of our last top 10 lists of all time. I know it's a sad thing, we'll see what happens with YouTube. I'm hoping things don't go by the wayside, but I wanted to get this one in. I know Spider-Man's a very popular character, and I wanted to cash in. No, really, I know a lot of you guys really like these figures, and I thought it would be a good thing to do. as kind of a send-off, even though we still have a few more. I am going to get a top 10 figures of the year done. I'd like to do a top 10 figures of the decade if I can work it into my schedule. And if you guys have any other top 10s you want me to crank out before YouTube goes belly up, then let me know, and we'll do that. Put that in the comment section below. And then, of course, before we go, I'll just go ahead and remind you real quick, we do have Beast. It's not going to focus on them because I have the camera set, but do have Beast and Gambit heads coming up again for sale for Beast and new for Gambit very soon. Keep an eye out for that. Subscribe, hit the notification thing, turn that all the way on so you don't miss it. It won't last long because that'll be going away very soon, but for now it'll work, so make sure you have that on. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure you subscribe, because not only do I have thousands of videos already on the channel and new videos coming out just about every day, you're gonna need to be subscribed in order to get the heads that will be for sale, because you will miss the video otherwise, and I think they're gonna sell out very quickly, at least for Beast. Gambit will be taking kind of like the pre-order situation. We'll get to that, but either way, guys, there it is. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comment section below. Do all that fun stuff, and in the meantime, keep collecting.